Hi there, this is Shauna from the Foiled Fox. I'm so glad you're joining me today. We're going to take another look at Ornament Greetings. It's a great stamp and die set by Papertrey Ink and Ink to Paper, and it makes these decorative ornaments, and it has some really adorable frames that you can use for lots of things and some sentiments. And then of course it has a matching die set that helps you cut all of these things out. But I'm going to start out with a piece of Bristol paper and four colors of distress inks: worn lipstick, festive berries, seedless preserves, and black soot. I'm going to start out with worn lipstick, and I'm using Bristol paper because it blends a little bit better than just using white cardstock. The finish on it accepts ink a little bit better, and it helps it glide and go on a little more smoothly. But as you add more ink to it, it will help too, because it'll start to saturate the paper. But you can see that I'm applying the colors on mostly on the outside of the darkening colors, and then keeping it fairly light on the inside. I was going to use a piece of just colored paper, but I decided I wanted something with a little bit more dimension, so I'm going to color this panel. So now I'm using festive berries. And I'm just, again, keeping it darker on the outside, but I am adding it in the inside too, but having a lighter hand on the inside. And I just keep building these inks. This is adding the seedless preserve. This is where it really gets interesting and starts to really darken and give it a lot of personality. I really like these color combinations. They work very well together. The purple in the seedless preserve, is tempered a little bit by the pinks that are in the worn lipstick and the festive berries. So it will give kind of a cranberry look when it gets done. And I just keep adding to the outside and a little bit to the inside. And I think this will add a little bit more interest than just a solid piece. But if you want to really make this card quick, then just use one of your favorite colors of a solid piece of colored cardstock. I'm just going to this extra step to add my own colored panel. You use a little bit of black as I go along. On the edges too. It just deepens it a little bit more. This is black soot, and I go back and forth between the seedless preserve and the black soot. And now that one's all done, boy, that was fast. I'm sorry, I cut that a little bit short. We're actually going to do two cards simultaneously. So now I have a more rectangular piece of Bristol paper, and I'm using broken china, salty ocean, chipped sapphire, and black soot. And you notice I'm using a post-it note to hold on to this. That's so that I try to limit how much ink I get on my fingers, but also when you put this much ink on a panel, it has a tendency to leave fingerprints if you're just putting your fingers right directly on the panel. So I've put the same way as before. I put the broken china down. Now I'm adding some salty ocean, and then to the chipped sapphire. The chipped sapphire starts getting that darker navy blue to it. And then of course we're going to add the black soot just to really deepen it, to give it more and more of a navy color once I add more color to this panel. And I am leaving a the lighter area, so I have a lighter hand in the center, but the top I want to have nice and dark. So when we get done with these two panels, like I say, I'm going to kind of do these cards simultaneously, and you'll see how that all comes together. I'm going to add that black. You'll see how it really deepens this color. I know black sometimes seems a little scary to use, but it is great for deepening any colors in your inks or in your watercolor. And I've left quite a bit of a lighter area here, which I'm glad about, because I really do want that kind of highlight on this panel. So there the two of them are, and I've let them dry. You do have to let them dry if you're going to ink on them, or I'm sorry, emboss on them, which we're going to do. And so you really need to do that. Now I'm using a stencil. This is Snowy Sky by Fawn, but you can use anything, any stencil you have. And then I'm going to use these little stars from Cozy Night from Penny Black. But you can use any stencils. I've actually listed a few different stencils you could use in our supply list in case you like one over another. But you can use stars, whatever you think you want your background to look like. I wanted this to be kind of snowy, so I am adding some Ranger opaque matte texture paste, and I'm just spreading it over the top of the stencil. And there I have it all. Now it's all got a snowy finish. Now for this red panel, I'm going to take those little stars from that Cozy Night, that Penny Black Cozy Night, and I'm just going to stamp them with Versamark ink. And you saw that I really used a lot of anti-static powder because I don't want it to stick. And you do have to have this panel very, very, very dry. Because there's so much ink on this panel, it does take a little bit to dry. You can use your heat tool, but it still will need a little bit more time because there's just so much ink on it. But now that I have stamped a few of them, I can't see them very well, so I'm going to add my embossing powder and just see where they're at, and then heat emboss these, and then I'll add a few more with different sizes. There are 3 different sizes of these kind of little star stamps. Now, obviously, you don't need to use the Cozy Nights. If you have some other stars or you have any other kind of look that you want, then use those. You can see I embossed it with clear embossing powder because I wanted it to be really subtle. I just wanted a tone on tone. And this is a Hero Arts clear that I really, really like. But again, whatever you happen to have on hand. But I'm just using that soft brush to brush off any that is sticking. And the reason why it's sticking a little bit is because I thought the panel was completely dry, but it's just slightly has a little bit more moisture left in it. But now that I have all of those on there, I'm going to now, it's hard to see in this screen, isn't it? But they are there. I'm going to use a piece of gold foil paper. Love this gold foil paper. It's in the supply list. I cut out the ornament. This is one of the dies that's included in the set. And I've mounted it with a little tape runner on my stamp positioner along with that cut out ornament. This is the easiest way I found that you can get that pattern in there. And then I positioned the stamp over it. Use some anti-static powder, very important. Stamping it with Versamark ink, and then stamping that so I can get a nice pattern. This gold foil, I was wondering how it would emboss, but it embosses beautifully. But do have your heat tool very, very hot before you start so that you're not lingering on that paper too long. You don't want to push your chances on this. You know, you don't want to harm the foil. But if you have it really hot in the beginning, then it works out fine. I'm using a metallic gold sparkle embossing powder here. This one happens to be a Wow, but you can use whatever you have. Now I did a couple of them, one with purple on the gold, and then I did a silver one. This is silver foil. Again, that is in our supply list, and I did it with the same design because remember, we're doing this simultaneously. Now I have cut out some ornaments that out of Autumn Rose, which is a Papertrey Ink paper. And I've used another one of those patterns that's in the stamp set for the ornament. And I stamped it with Versamark ink and now use that same embossing powder. And I have one more that I'm going to use because we're going to have 3 of them. But before I did a blue one. See, that's indigo paper. I'm just doing these, like I say, simultaneously. And while I have that particular design already in the stamp positioner, I'm going to go ahead and do the blue one as well. Now this has this kind of medallion pattern, which is really pretty. And I'm not going to use the stamp positioner. I'm just going to chance it by stamping it and then heat embossing it with the gold, same gold embossing powder. Going to do the same with the blue. I make a blue one. You can see I made a blue one with the same pattern. I'm trying to economize my time, so I'm not changing stamps all the time. I'm stamping the blue and the red at the same time if I'm using the same pattern. Now I'm going to arrange this and get an idea where I want the sentiment. There is this Happy Holidays sentiment that I really like that is included in this set. And I'm just kind of getting an idea where that I want it positioned. And also there's these little squiggly strings that come off of the ornament. There's 2 of them. I'm going to stamp those. But see, I have this positioned, so I'm using a chalk pencil and I'm just marking them lightly where I want them so that now I can stamp them and know exactly where I want them to be. The chalk pencil is something I use all the time on colored surfaces because it's a way for me to mark it and then I can erase it if I need to afterwards, but it nearly disappears as it is, especially when you've embossed over that. So I've stamped those. There's 2 different kinds of squiggly lines, and I've stamped the one for each of the 3 ornaments. I've used the same embossing powder. And now I'm going to not chance it with this sentiment. I want it to be, make sure it's straight and that I get a good impression. So I am putting in the stamp positioner, putting those ornaments in just lightly just to see, yeah, is that where I want the sentiment to be? I think that works. So I have that all mounted. I've used some anti-static powder. I've already stamped it. That happened all magically. And then I'm using the embossing powder. So here I'm going to heat emboss this. And it's really kind of hard to see the gold, but in real life it's very vibrant and it's really pretty. Now there's this little tiny little diamond that I saw in this. I had missed it the first time. A little stamp, and it's charming. So I decided I needed to stamp a few of those also on this panel. So I've just kind of eyeballed where I think I want to have those. And you'll see what I mean when I heat emboss this. What it looks like now that that's all heat embossed, I'm taking some black foam, mounting it on our panel, adding some tape, and my tape runner doesn't like going on foam very much. But I've mounted that to pop it up a little bit, and I'm using an Autumn Rose card base. Again, that is a Papertrey Ink paper, but go to the supply list. There's all these things that are there. Now the top of this, it doesn't have a stamp for the top, so I took a gold Uniball pen, and I'm just simply drawing in these lines for the top of my ornament just to finish that off. And I have some foam tape on the back of my ornaments. And now I'm just going to press those into place. And, you know, then our card is going to be done. Now we're going to go on to our blue one since that one's done. And I know I'm kind of rushing through this, but you'll have a chance to see it a little bit more at the end. And now I'm using those same squigglies, but now I'm taking a sentiment. I'm just marking where I think I want the sentiment with that same chalk pencil. And I'm going to mount this in the stamp positioner because I want to make sure that that sentiment is straight, just like before. I'm using lots of anti-static powder. This one comes from Christmas Sentiments by Penny Black. And I have that sentiment all positioned. And I have those little squiggly strings for my ornaments there too. And I'm just going to do it a second time because I'm going over that embossing area, and it works out fine. Don't worry about that. Just emboss it twice with the ink before you put the embossing powder on it. I'm using a metallic silver, just like I did when I did the ornaments. So it's a metallic gold and a metallic silver. These have a sparkle in it. So it does give it a little bit more of a twinkly look to it. And it may be hard to see, but in real life, these things really do show up. And I'm just using an eraser here, and I'm erasing any marks that I may still have remaining from that chalk pencil. And now I have to use that little diamond again. I'm just going to stamp it a couple of times here. I decided in the end that, yeah, this one needs that too, because it's just way too charming to skip it. So that was embossed. Now I'm taking a silver gold pen. This is like deja vu. I did this all with the red panel. And I have a piece of black foam. I'm going to pop this one up too. Put it on the back of the panel. I have an indigo card base that I'm going to stick this onto. Again, a Papertrey Ink paper. And that's the same as what I did with the ornaments, if you remember. It is the indigo, which is a navy, a really pretty navy. And now with these ornaments having a little bit of foam tape on it, I'm pressing these into position. And it's really hard to kind of see these strings, at least on my tiny screen it is. But I hope you see it, and in real life, don't worry, it's really there. But here, this will give you a much better idea. Now that I have photographed it on a different background, it really makes it pop. And you see how that lighter area is a really nice highlight. And it just kind of is like a silent night, a beautiful night sky. And then here is the red. I happen to be very partial to this one, but you'll have to let me know which one you like the best. I love this this kind of cranberry color, and then you can see the highlight is nice on this one too. It just gives it a nice kind of glow in the center of the page of the card. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it for you. I wanted to just let you know I'm using the Ornament Greetings, like we mentioned before, various stencils, and plus the Cozy Night stamp set by Penny Black. And also there was the sentiments, the Christmas sentiments. But pop over to our blog at foilfox.com/blog, but there's a link down below. It has all the complete supply list. It has more close-ups, has tons more inspiration. So we hope we'll see you there. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time.